Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Between the Sharks. Today, we're going to go over what tools you should have in your classic car and what you should bring on a road trip. Why? Well, because it's on my mind. I'm kind of like Private Santiago today. I'm supposed to head out on power tour. Well, I'm going to go get my badge tomorrow, and then day after tomorrow, we're hitting the road. And I haven't packed a thing, and I have not called a soul. Now, as you all know, this is my daily. I've had it for 10 years. I've got over 100,000 miles on it. It's been improved as we've gone along, and I don't do a lot of routine maintenance on it, for better or for worse, because I've got this if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of policy with this car, and it's treated me really well, better than I treat it. I say that all the time. I know, I get it. But I thought I would bring you into what I actually have in the car right now, considering we did have the issue with the drive shaft. It's on the channel, but I'll show you what I was actually carrying with me, which is less than I usually even carry. So everything you see here is hot dog paraphernalia. There's not a tool in the back. So I'll show you what's in this little toolkit, because I honestly don't remember. Always have the fire extinguisher, and then we'll check the glove compartment. All right, I got a tire iron, parts of a bottle jack, zip ties, a couple of wrenches, and it looks like some wire strippers down there. So that's what's in there. That I always keep in all my old cars, because even the ones with the best Poindexter windshield wipers, they need a little help in the rain. In here, I've got a tape measure, I'm not sure why, scissors, old school flashlight, tape. This is a very used set of points. Electrical tape, a charger, flathead, and Phillips head screwdrivers. And I got a pressure gauge thing. And some anti-chafing butt powder. That's gonna come in handy. Didn't even know I had it. Philosophically, right, I should probably be carrying even more than that. And the reason is not because it's an old car and I expect it to break down, but for the most part, the great thing about these cars is if something little goes wrong, you have a pretty good chance of MacGyvering it enough to probably get you home. But if not that, get you to a safer place or drive yourself to a store that has more of the things that you probably need. And that's not something that you can say about any car probably made after, I'm gonna go ahead and say 1996, but you put it in the comments if you've got a different date, because I'd love to hear. It's kind of like a Mad Lib. I don't try to be prepared for every situation, but I want to be prepared for the ones where you go, dang it, if I just had a fill in the blank, we'd be back on the road. And I'm talking simple stuff. Screwdriver. This is pretty much what I would normally have in the truck that I have not had in the truck for the last several weeks since I have been messing around with this whole hot dog ridiculousness. A spare tire. You can see that's been riding in the truck. That is power steering fluid, because this thing leaks power steering fluid pretty bad, as does the Blazer, as does the Trooper. All Chevrolet stuff. Motor oil, because I know it leaks motor oil. And a funnel. Like, that's it. Like, that's all I carry around, and I commute in this thing constantly. And honestly, that's not the smartest way to do it. So I bought some stuff to go on power tour. I'm gonna lay it out, we're gonna explain it, and then we'll decide what lives permanently in the truck. I also almost always have a jerry can in the truck, because you'll know, if you drive old cars for a long time, you'll pretty much learn how to read the gauge, but it's not going to be the way an accurate gauge reads. In my experience, no old car's fuel gauge system works like like you'd want it to. So I know that when I get below half a tank, between half and a quarter, it's going to start to bounce a little bit, and I'm going to lose all, you know, sense of reality about how far we are. I have run out of gas in this thing more times than I can count. Every single time I had a gas can in it, except for the first. So I'll keep a couple gallons on me at all times, because it's a pickup truck. It's easy to do. Learn your gas tank, fill up often if you have a car where you can't really carry a full gas tank, because they're just finicky. It's one of the very few things, but it's reliably finicky, you know what I'm saying? So I was gonna say it's one of the few things that's not reliable, but it is indeed reliably finicky. I am also, without a doubt, it's worth saying at this point, breaking my own rules. Murphy's Law suggests to me that if I do a repair on this truck, that I need all of the tools associated with that repair until that repair is a distant memory. Like, The fact that I changed the U-joints in this truck very recently, and I don't have any of the tools to do that. I might have a 9/16 wrench, I might have a 1/2 inch wrench, I don't know. Don't have needle nose pliers, don't have the stuff I need in case that repair goes bad because I screwed it up, which is the most likely, or the lesser kind of likely thing that I got a bad part in the mix. I have put some miles on it, but the thing about that is I put miles on it without tools in the truck, and that's usually not something I do. So heads up. So if you do a repair, I recommend, it's almost like a security blanket. Just keep the tools that you just used for that repair in the truck or the car until you decide that that repair is sound. So I purchased about $150 worth of stuff from Harbor Freight. Most of what I purchased is stuff I used to have in the truck, but then it moved to the next project vehicle, or the next project vehicle, or the next project vehicle, or the next project vehicle. So the toolkit kind of floats around once a car gets reliable, and that's not really the best thing to do. I should probably just keep one in the cars because why not? That said, this truck has almost never left me stranded. I think the brakes were the only time, and that was a brake hose that blew out, and I chose to have it towed instead of crimping it off. So that's that. Let's take a look at what we got. I bought this $44 toolkit from Harbor Freight, and then I added this $14 set of deep wells because this does not have deep wells. It's got all that junk in it. It's 44 bucks. There's two things about this. A, it's going to be on the road. B, if somebody just steals it from me at a hotel, I don't really care. And then C, obviously I have all of this stuff in the shop, the garage, the whatever, but I work on everything in there, so it can be, if you have the means to spend $44, it's a good idea. I can't even tell you how many times over the years tools have migrated from the garage into any one of the cars that I was working on, and then sort of became a part of that car, or lost forever, incomplete socket sets, all of that jazz. So 60 bucks all in. It's cheap enough that if it gets stolen, I'm not going to cry about it, and probably will get me through most of the things I need to do on the side of the road, and probably be able to get me to the nearest auto parts store or Walmart or Target or whatever, where I can buy the rest of the crap that I need. Jumper cables. I mean, why wouldn't you have a set? Why didn't I have a set? If not for me, then for somebody else. In fact, this truck used to have a set, and it has jumped way more cars than it has been jumped, if that makes any sense. Got one of these LED lights. I love it. They're great. They're awesome. I picked up another inline spark checker because it was $4. I have one in the shop, but what this thing is excellent at is determining if a no start condition is in fact ignition related, right? Because you can just see the spark. You don't need to like pull the thing and hold it or get somebody to hold it just right. You just put this in line, you either see a spark or you don't. For $4, it's a quick, good diagnostic tool. It was worth having a second one. I don't remember what kind of fuses were in the truck, so I bought both kinds. We've all seen the wiring in the truck. It's trash. I should never be traveling without this, because basically, if you end up on the side of the road, sure, you can like strip a wire with your teeth and wrap them together and put a little tape on it, and you might get yourself home, but this was $9 with the doohickey. So bought that, spent a couple more bucks on zip ties, and spent $3 on a new test light. Got some test lights in the shop, but again, why not? This will all pack pretty small. This is a little larger than I expected, but it may fit under the front seat, which would be great. And it will travel to any rescue mission that we go on, or anytime we need to be rescued. In addition, I did purchase another bottle jack, which was $40 of the $150, because I could use one around the shop, and the one that's in the truck right now has been kind of rusting away in that little bucket for a long time. And on the trip, just in case, I will bring a jack stand because, well, you know, I don't know, maybe somebody else needs it, maybe I need it. It's not a bad idea. It's a pickup truck, crying out loud, so we'll do that. I'm gonna show you a couple of other things that I'm gonna bring along that I think might be particularly useful. I picked up this Ryobi inflator thing. Boy, howdy, does it work. I think it was $40 or something like that. And it will fill a tire from dead flat. It may take a minute, but I'll charge up a battery and I'll take that with me. One of the best new tools I bought this year. Like, it does everything from bicycles to like full-blown flat tires on your car. Now, I do have, you know, an adapter for the cigarette lighter in this thing, and I do have the cigarette lighter working so that I can USB charge my telephone or whatever else. But I noticed this the other day, and I'm going to bring this as well. So this is a tip out there for anybody like shopping for stuff. This is, I think, a huge advantage. This is a 40-volt lithium-ion battery for a Ryobi tool, right? It is on the charger right there. But you may notice the charger has a USB port. And if you mash that button, it powers up that USB port, pulling off the battery. If you can't think of 1,000 reasons that's like a convenience or a safety measure or whatever in an old car, like I'm going to the middle of nowhere. If my phone's dying or the car's dead on the side of the road and the battery's dead, I've got extra time to like track a tow truck or whatever, if it came to that. You know what I'm saying? I listen to a lot of car talk. Car talk is inherently old. And some people call in saying they're going to take their old car across the country. What part should I bring? And I think it's a common like thought or concern. And I would say, I don't really bring any, but if I was going to cross, I don't know, like large stretches of Texas or places that it's like really, really, really rural, I might reconsider. I might take the parts that are easy to change, right? Like a water pump or an alternator or things that do kind of go belly up sometimes, but don't take, you know, a whole lot of effort to change if you have a simple toolkit like we have. But for this trip, I just grabbed a new belt because the belt that's on there is squealing like crazy. So if I'm smart, I'll put the new one on and just keep the old one as a spare. I bought points and a condenser because I watched an Uncle Tony video about Power Tour, and he was ribbing DD Speed Shop by saying all he needed to bring was points, a condenser, and a screwdriver, and he could basically figure out anything he needed to figure out. And he's probably right. The thing is, I don't even remember the last time I adjusted the points or looked at them in this thing. So I thought, well, at the very least, and there's no reason not to have all of these things in the car at all times. They're parts that go bad, they're parts that wear out, they're parts that will go belly up at some point, so you may as well have your spare. Like, you just may as well. So now the truck will have points, condenser, a cap and a rotor, and a belt. But eventually it will need these tune-up parts. They are not going to last forever. That's sort of, they're made to wear, is what I'm saying. And I'm bringing a feeler gauge just in case I have to get into the points. I think I could set them enough. I'm pretty confident I could set new points enough that it would drive down the road, but it would be driving me down the road to buy a feeler gauge just to make sure it's right. So I have several, I'm just gonna bring one. In my experience, it's kind of the little stuff that's kind of bitten me a little bit, where I've had like a heater hose that finally gave it up, or that's probably a good example, a piece of like cracked fuel line that finally starts to leak. And those are 5-minute fixes. Like, you start to smell gas or you smell antifreeze, you pull over, you find the leak, and it's like, if you have 4 inches of fuel line, or you've left yourself enough of a service loop, you can cut a piece and move it around and it'll get you to the auto parts store or to the next place that you can pull over that's safe to fix it. You know, it's really, it's a hose clamp and a screw. To me, in a car that you're driving a lot, that's most likely gonna be what happens. If you watch your gauges, if you have oil pressure, you check your oil every now and then, make sure there's some in there, you're probably gonna be okay. And trying to plan for absolutely everything, again, if you're crossing a bunch of rural, super barren landscape, this is a totally different thing. Power Tour at this point is in the southeast. It's going from Atlanta to Bristol. It will be passing through plenty of countryside, but nothing where there's nobody. Plus, this is going to be a parade of hot rods that run hours and hours and hours on end. So there are going to be people to help you out. But, you know, I don't ever want to be the guy that's broken down because he doesn't have a zip tie on him. So, like I said, you know, there's 1,000 other parts I think I could bring. I could bring a spare coil or plug wires, or I could bring a water pump or an alternator or anything like that. But I think what I have here is more than enough, hopefully, to patch me up long enough to get me to somewhere where I can get the thing that I need. So generally speaking, the longer I drive a car, the fewer tools end up in it because they go to the next car that I'm test driving. If your car is brand new and you're just shaking it out, you want to have as much as you can on you, because you never know what you didn't tighten down or what you forgot to do or whatever. But as you drive the car more and more, it's going to need less and less regular attention. That doesn't mean things aren't going to go wrong. It just means that your ability to predict them is going to be less and less. And the reality is, these old cars are extremely good at warning you that something's not quite right. For the most part, once you get used to driving your old car, I think one of the fun things about it's like a little kid in me, you know, I loved gauges growing up. I thought they were really cool. Well, in an old car, they're your best friend. You should know that your alternator is going out before your car dies. You should see that it's not charging. You should notice the stuff like that. It will warn you. There are a couple of things where if you go to sleep at night and you get back up and you try to start the car, it might just go bad. Like a condenser in the distributor. It could, in theory. But what it will usually do is it'll start to miss and buck and be really, really, really weird, giving you a warning that, hey, there's trouble. Keep driving it, but eventually you're going to need to pull over and find out what is causing this problem. That type of thing. Now, there is one other super important tool that I keep with me. Now, I may not be much of a joiner, but I am a proud member of the American Automobile Association, also known as AAA. Founded in 1902. I'm not sponsored by them in any way, shape, or form, but I am a gold member. Now, what that means is it's tiered, and one of the big jumps in tier is what they offer as far as towing. In the rare occasion, like I've had heater hoses go out, I've had little wiring blips, I've had all sorts of stuff that I've fixed on the road and made it home just fine. But in the rare occasion I've had to be towed, when this thing had a brake line explode, when the Blazer took a rock to the radiator and was just spewing, and I was about 60 miles from home, I called AAA, and I got a flatbed tow for each one of these things, and it got me where I needed to go in order to fix it. I'm pretty convinced at this point, if you can tow me to an auto parts store, even if I'm 1,000 miles from home, I've got a fighting chance of fixing it. And if I don't, you know what? We're just going to tow it to a shop that does. It's peace of mind. It's an organization with really cool history. Something to consider. Just saying. Not sponsored. And gang, let's be real. In this day and age, if you're traveling in America, pretty much all you need is a cell phone, a credit card, and your ID. You can figure out the rest later. It will probably keep you safe, get you where you're going, and even get you back home. Just, you know, keep that in mind if you start to get stressed out. It'll be all right. I guess the short version is don't sweat it so hard. However, if you do find yourself reaching for a particular tool or a kind of screwdriver or something like that on your car to adjust something or fix something all the time, keep one in the car. You know, like, you just don't want to be on the side of the road or in a parking lot being like, God dang it, if I just had whatever it is, I'd have already been back on the road. A lot of it is about how you feel about the car. And what I mean is, a friend of mine and a mentor told me one day, you know, I was driving my car to work, and he said, I was talking about taking it further and further, and he said, basically, you start at home and you work your way further and further and further away as you work out the bugs. And after a while, when you're driving it regularly, if you think this car is going to get you to work or anywhere you want to go 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, there's really no difference between that and going on a road trip. Well, good luck on your projects out there. Good luck on Power Tour if any of you guys are going. If so, when you see the truck, stop by and say hello. And don't forget, you know, the majority of the truck is loaded down with hot dogs. So even if we are broken down, we'll have something to do. We'll just, you know, set up the grill and wait for help to arrive. We'll see you next time on Between the Sharks.